As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the forest, I couldn't contain my excitement. It was our anniversary, and I had planned a romantic camping trip for my girlfriend, Lisa. We had always loved being in nature, and what better way to celebrate our love than a night under the stars? We arrived at the secluded campsite nestled deep within the woods. The air was crisp, and the scent of pine filled our lungs. We set up our tent near a babbling brook, the sound of water providing a soothing backdrop to our adventure. The evening was perfect. We cooked a delicious dinner over the campfire, laughing and sharing stories as the flames danced before us. The night sky was a tapestry of twinkling stars, and I could feel the magic in the air. Little did I know that the true horror was about to unfold. As we settled into our sleeping bags, I could sense a change in the atmosphere. The once calm and peaceful woods now seemed eerie and foreboding. Lisa and I exchanged glances, both feeling a sense of unease. Brushing it off as mere imagination, we decided to enjoy our night together. But as the hours passed, strange occurrences began to unfold. Soft whispers carried on the wind, their voices indecipherable yet filled with malice. Shadows seemed to dance and twist in the corners of our vision, disappearing as soon as we turned to look. The air grew colder, an unnatural chill seeping into our bones. Lisa clutched my hand, her eyes wide with fear. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "We should leave," I suggested, my voice barely audible. But as we attempted to pack our belongings, an invisible force seemed to hold us in place. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped, unable to escape the horrors lurking in the darkness. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the stillness of the night. It was a blood-curdling cry that sent shivers down our spines. We exchanged terrified glances, fear etched into our faces. Without hesitation, we ventured into the darkness, drawn towards the sound of distress. Our path led us deeper into the woods, the trees towering above us like sentinels of the night. The moonlight peeked through the dense canopy, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. Each step we took felt heavy with trepidation, as if we were intruding upon something ancient and malevolent. We stumbled upon a clearing, a place where time seemed to stand still. There in the center stood a dilapidated cabin, its windows broken and door ajar. A faint light emanated from within, casting an ethereal glow on the surrounding foliage. Driven by a mix of curiosity and fear, we cautiously approached the cabin. The air grew thick with an otherworldly energy, the hairs on the back of our necks standing on end. The closer we got, the stronger the sense of dread became. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. A pungent smell hung in the air, a mixture of decay and something far more sinister. Shadows danced across the walls, their movements frenzied and chaotic. It was as if the very essence of evil resided within those walls. As we explored further, our eyes fell on a photograph. It depicted a young couple, their faces filled with happiness and love. But something was odd. The man in the photograph bore an uncanny resemblance to me, while the woman was unmistakably Lisa. Before we could comprehend the implications, a voice echoed through the cabin, chilling us to the core. "You were never meant to leave," it whispered, its tone filled with venom. The walls seemed to close in around us, trapping us in this nightmarish realm. In a desperate bid for escape, we ran towards the door, our hearts pounding in our chests. But the moment we crossed the threshold, everything went black. When we awoke, we found ourselves back at our campsite, the sun rising on a new day. It felt as if we had emerged from a twisted dream, our memories hazy and fragmented. We packed up our belongings, a newfound sense of trepidation lingering in our hearts. As we left the campsite, I glanced back one last time, the cabin standing silent and foreboding in the distance. I couldn't help but wonder if it was all just a figment of our imagination, or if something truly sinister had transpired that fateful night. To this day, we carry the weight of that experience, forever changed by the horrors we encountered. Our love for camping and hiking remains, but we approach it with caution, knowing that the wilderness holds secrets far more dangerous than we could ever imagine. Story number 2, The Whispering Woods with my girlfriend. The anticipation buzzed in the air as my girlfriend, Emma, and I packed our camping gear into the trunk of my car. We had been planning this trip for weeks, a weekend getaway to immerse ourselves in the beauty of nature and escape the stresses of everyday life. Little did we know the serene woods would unravel into a nightmare beyond imagination. As we drove deeper into the countryside, the cityscape gradually faded into a lush green landscape dotted with towering trees. The road wound its way through the heart of the forest, leading us to our destination, a secluded campground nestled at the edge of a pristine lake. The sun dipped below the horizon as we arrived, casting long shadows over the tranquil waters. Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement as we unloaded our gear and set up our tent beneath the canopy of stars. The crackling campfire warmed our faces as we roasted marshmallows and shared stories late into the night. But as the fire dwindled and darkness settled over the forest, a sense of unease crept into the air. Emma brushed it off his nerves, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that there was something lurking in the shadows just beyond the edge of our campsite. We retired to our tent, the soft glow of our lantern casting eerie shadows on the canvas walls. I nestled close to Emma, hoping to find solace in her presence as the night pressed in around us. But as we drifted off to sleep, a strange sensation washed over me, a feeling of being pulled into a world of darkness and despair. I woke to the sound of whispers echoing through the woods, soft, insistent voices that seemed to dance on the edge of my consciousness. Emma stirred beside me, her brow furrowed in confusion as she clutched my hand tightly. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest as I strained to listen to the disembodied voices that seemed to surround us on all sides. They spoke in a language I couldn't understand, their words twisting and warping into unintelligible murmurs that sent shivers down my spine. Emma's grip tightened as the whispers grew louder, their sinister tones weaving through the fabric of the night like a malevolent symphony. I wanted to run, to flee into the safety of the waking world. But something held me in place, rooted to the spot as the darkness closed in around us. And then, without warning, the forest erupted into chaos, a cacophony of screams and howls that pierced the silence like a knife. Emma and I clung to each other in terror as the ground shook beneath us, the very earth seeming to tremble with fear. I reached for the lantern, desperate to illuminate the darkness and reveal the source of our torment. But as the light pierced the shadows, I wished I hadn't. The forest was alive with movement, a writhing mass of twisted limbs and gnashing teeth that seemed to pulse with unholy energy. Emma screamed as something lunged for the darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence as it bore down upon us with terrifying speed. I pushed her out of harm's way, my instincts kicking into overdrive as I fought to protect the woman I'd loved from the horrors that surrounded us. But no matter how hard I fought, the creatures kept coming, relentless in their pursuit, their twisted forms closing in around us like a suffocating embrace. And as I looked into Emma's eyes, I knew that we were facing something far beyond our understanding, something ancient and malevolent that hungered for our souls. I whispered a prayer as the darkness swallowed us whole, my voice lost in the cacophony of screams and whispers that echoed through the night. And as the forest consumed us, I knew that our fate was sealed, that we would never escape the horrors of the Whispering Woods. Story number 3. The Whispering Glen with Ex-Girlfriend. The memory of that camping trip with my ex-girlfriend, Lisa, still sends a chill down my spine. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway, a chance for us to reconnect and leave the stresses of everyday life behind. But what started as a weekend of adventure in the wilderness turned into a nightmare beyond imagination. Lisa and I had been together for 2 years, our relationship filled with laughter, love, and shared dreams of exploring the great outdoors. So when she suggested we spend a weekend camping in the secluded beauty of Whispering Glen, I eagerly agreed. Little did I know that our journey into the wilderness would lead us down a path of terror and despair. We arrived at Whispering Glen on a crisp autumn morning, the air alive with the scent of pine and the gentle rustle of leaves. The glen was a hidden gem, tucked away from the noise of the city, surrounded by towering trees and a babbling brook. Lissa's eyes sparkled with excitement as we unloaded our gear, her laughter echoing through the clearing as she twirled in the dappled sunlight. As we hiked deeper into the glen, the trail became increasingly overgrown, the sounds of civilization fading into the distance. Lissa led the way, her adventurous spirit driving us forward, as we ventured deeper into the heart of the forest. But as the hours passed and the sun began to sink below the horizon, a sense of unease settled over me like a heavy shroud. Night fell quickly, the darkness swallowing us whole as we set up camp in a small clearing beside the brook. The crackling campfire cast dancing shadows on the forest floor, but even its warm glow couldn't dispel the feeling of foreboding that hung in the air. As we sat by the fire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that there was something lurking in the darkness just beyond the edge of our campsite. Lissa laughed off my concerns, dismissing them as jitters from being out in the wilderness. But deep down I knew there was something more sinister at play. As the night wore on, the forest grew eerily quiet, the sounds of nocturnal creatures fading into silence. Lissa snuggled close to me, her warmth a comfort against the encroaching darkness. But then, from somewhere deep within the forest, we heard it, the faintest whisper like a gentle breeze brushing against our ears. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest as I strained to listen to the disembodied voices that seemed to surround us on all sides. Lissa's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes wide with fear as the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. I shook my head, my mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. But before I could respond, the forest erupted into chaos, a cacophony of screams and howls that echoed through the night like a symphony of terror. Lissa screamed beside me, her voice lost in the chaos, as something unseen crashed through the underbrush with terrifying speed. I grabbed her hand, pulling her close as we ran blindly through the forest, our hearts pounding in our chests. But no matter how fast we ran, the darkness seemed to swallow us whole, its tendrils reaching out to drag us down into its depths. We stumbled upon a clearing, and I saw Lissa's face go white as a sheet as she pointed towards something in the distance. There, looming in the darkness, was a dilapidated cabin, relic of a time long forgotten, its windows shattered, and its walls stained with decay. Without a word, we made a mad dash for the safety of the cabin, praying that its rotting timbers would hold against whatever horror pursued us. We slammed the door shut behind us, barricading it with whatever furniture we could find as the creatures' enraged howls echoed through the night. And there, huddled together in the darkness, we waited for dawn to break, knowing that our lives would never be the same again. The sun rose the next morning, casting its warm light across the forest floor and driving the darkness back into shadows. But as we emerged from the safety of the cabin, we knew that Whispering Glen held secrets far darker than we could have ever imagined. We packed up our belongings in silence, our minds still reeling from the horrors of the night before. As we made our way back to civilization, I couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered in the depths of the forest, something ancient and malevolent, waiting to ensnare its next unsuspecting victims in its web of darkness. That was the last camping trip I ever took with Lissa, and though we never spoke of what happened at Whispering Glen again, the memory of that fateful night will haunt me until the end of my days. Story number 4. The Shadow in the Firelight. The crackling flames danced in the darkness, casting flickering shadows across the forest floor. Emily and I sat close together, the warmth of the fire chasing away the chill of the night. Despite our recent breakup, there was a lingering spark between us, a connection that refused to die. We had decided to go camping in the remote wilderness, hoping to rekindle our lost romance amidst the beauty of nature. But as the night wore on, a sense of unease settled over me like a shadow creeping into the corners of my mind. Emily seemed oblivious to my apprehension, her laughter ringing out in the stillness of the night. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Something lurked in the darkness just beyond the reach of the firelight. As the hours passed, Emily grew tired and retreated to the tent, leaving me alone by the fire. I watched her go, a pang of regret gnawing at my heart. But there was something else, something primal and instinctual, urging me to stay vigilant. I stoked the fire, the flames roaring to life once more, casting a warm glow over the clearing. But no matter how bright the fire burned, it couldn't dispel the shadows that seemed to close in around me. And then I heard it, a soft rustling in the underbrush, like footsteps padding silently through the night. My heart hammered in my chest as I scanned the darkness, searching for any sign of movement. But there was nothing, just the eerie stillness of the forest. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination running wild, that there was nothing to fear. But deep down I knew better. I was about to retreat to the safety of the tent when I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow, darker than the night itself, slinking through the trees with an otherworldly grace. Panic surged through me as I realized we were not alone in the wilderness. Whatever lurked in the darkness was watching us, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest as I called out for Emily. But there was no response, just the echo of my own voice fading into the night. With trembling hands, I reached for the flashlight, its feeble beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. I scanned the trees, searching for any sign of movement, but the shadow had vanished without a trace. I knew we had to leave, to get as far away from this cursed place as possible. But before I could make a move, I heard Emily's voice, soft and distant, calling out to me from the depths of the forest. I hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the desire to find her. But in the end, love won out. I plunged into the darkness, following her voice like a beacon in the night. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees twisting and contorting in the darkness. Branches reached out like gnarled fingers, grasping at my clothes as if trying to pull me into the earth below. But I pushed on, driven by the desperate need to find Emily and escape this nightmare once and for all. And then, just when I thought I couldn't go on any longer, I saw her. She stood at the edge of a clearing, bathed in moonlight, her eyes wide with fear. But before I could reach her, a shadow loomed up behind her, its form shifting and twisting in the darkness. I froze, my blood running cold as I realized the truth. Whatever had been stalking us in the night was now standing before us, its presence filling the clearing with a suffocating sense of dread. And then, with a guttural growl, it lunged forward, its claws outstretched like talons. I barely had time to react before it was upon us, carrying through the darkness with a primal ferocity. I fought with every ounce of strength I had, desperation lending me a courage I never knew I possessed. But it was no use. The shadow was too powerful, too relentless in its pursuit. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, bathing the forest in a warm golden glow. With a final roar, the shadow vanished into the darkness, leaving us battered but alive. We stumbled out of the forest, shaken but grateful to have survived. And as we made our way back to civilization, I couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lurked in the depths of the wilderness, waiting to prey on unsuspecting travelers like us.